Good morning and welcome to episode 8 of Talking About Horses. We're actually going to record this video and post it so that we can make sure that the whole thing is complete and that you can enjoy the whole entire video rather than having us have technical difficulties. So today is actually Tuesday before Thanksgiving and we are going to talk about bridling today. The way I bridle is the way I was taught. I was taught through Pony Club. With a lot of emphasis on safety, and then I've learned things through time, whether teaching people or with mistakes that I've even made. So I'm just going to show you my way. Now, if your trainer has you bridle a certain way, respect your trainer, do it their way. This is for people who really just want to know a safe way to bridle. So before we get into talking about actual bridling, I do want to talk a little bit about the anatomy of the horse and why a horse can have a bit. Horses' teeth are designed, they have incisors in the front. So these are going to reach down and pinch off the grass. There's a gap in the middle, and that chubby thing right here is her tongue. This is her tongue here, and they have a very long tongue. And then their back teeth start back here. So there's a really big gap in the middle here where there are no teeth. And that's why a bit can sit in here and they can actually close their mouth and they can't bite me. I'm totally safe as long as my fingers are in that spot. Of course, she doesn't like the taste of my fingers because I have saddle slip on. I'm sorry, girl. That's why a horse can have a bit in its mouth. That's why we can't. We have teeth that run the full length unless you're missing a few teeth. Then you can't put a bit in your mouth without having your teeth being held open. For a horse, they can actually close their jaw and be relaxed having a bit in their mouth. So I'm going to start off by putting a Western bridle on her just because of the simplicity of it. And then I'll just put on a couple of English bridles. So before I bridle my horse, I always want to make sure that they're untied. I prefer to put the halter around their neck so that they're secure. But before I do that, I'm going to put my reins around the neck. And that's so that if she decides to leave, I can grab a hold of her. And that's the same reason that I'm going to put this halter around her neck as well, is so that I can grab a hold of her if she decides to leave. Sometimes horses see their friends leaving and they think, oh, let's go, and they forget that they're not bridled yet. So we want to make sure that we have a hold of them so they're not taking off without a bridle on. Okay, so here's my bridle. I'm going to hold it from the crown piece. This is the crown piece at the top. And I'm going to put my hand over the top of her head and hold the crown piece from here. She's going to try and help me. I'm going to keep everything clear of her mouth. And this has an attached curb strap that doesn't come off. So we're just going to make sure that that goes behind her lip. And I'm going to stick my thumb in the corner of her mouth and push down a little bit to encourage her to open her mouth and guide the bit in with my thumb. And then I'm going to fold her ear forward and put the bridle on so it settles on here. Now, one thing about horses' ears is horses can get very head shy. Their ears are actually quite sensitive, and they're made of cartilage. They do not like to be crushed. You can see she's a pretty good girl. But most horses don't like their ears being crushed. But you can fold the ear forward very flat against their forehead, and it's not a problem. So if I'm going to bridle her, I'm going to push it forward and get it out of the way so it doesn't hurt her. And that way she'll be happy. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to do up the throat latch. So the throat latch is here, goes around the throat. And what this is going to do is keep the bridle from coming off. I personally don't like riding horses without a throat latch for safety reasons. Now this isn't her bridle, so it's a little bit tight on the throat latch. But what we want is we want it tight enough to not go over this cheekbone, this jawbone here. We don't want it to go over that. But we want it loose enough that I can still make a fist on the side here so that she has room to breathe. Now the reason that the throat latch is there is to keep your bridle from coming off. So if for some reason something bumps, your horse rubs their ear, you slide forward and bump it, your bridle's not going to come off. And something that I think is kind of fascinating, she's probably having fun with the shanks here. Something that's been real fascinating this recently is everybody's getting those ergonomic bridles where the throat latch is actually moved down to here, and the bridles are coming off in competition. And that's because the throat latch isn't in the right place to hold the bridle on. Having stallions, I really think about that. That's not something I want to do, is risk that my bridles are going to come off at any time. So I would always ride with a throat latch on my bridle. So the curb strap should be set so that when you activate your bit at 45-degree angle is when the curb strap is going to activate. So it's not going to be tight sitting here straight. It's going to tighten at 45 degrees. So that's the correct length for your curb strap. So when I go to take it off, I'm going to undo this. I'm going to put my reins up here. I'm going to unbuckle my halter so I'm already ready, and I'm going to hold it here so I'm ready. But I can still hold her if she leaves. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently slide the bridle over her ears, and I'm going to give her a minute to work the bit out of her mouth without banging her teeth. A lot of times people will pull the bridle off really fast and bang the horse's teeth, and you'll make a horse very head shy. A couple of reasons why horses get difficult to bridle is people are banging their mouths or they're banging their ears, and it makes the horse really uncomfortable. So you want to try to make it as comfortable as possible for them so they look forward to having a bridle put back on. And I'll let her stand there without any supervision. So.
Well, also, while you get that settled, which horse is this?
Oh, sorry. This is Lady Ziva. This is my 14-year-old thoroughbred mare, Lady Ziva. And she's been around the block a lot. And she is actually a good one because she knows her job and will stand here quietly while I make a million mistakes. So.
And she's available for in-barn lease if anyone's interested.
She's
just plug for Zivi there.
She's a good girl. So now we're going to put on her dressage bridle. And this one looks a little more complicated because it has a noseband and a flash noseband. So, but the same principles are going to apply. We're going to put the halter around her neck and the reins over her head so that we have a hold of her. So now we've got a way to contain her if she decides to leave. I'm going to put my right hand over her poll. I'm going to hold the crown piece. And what I'm going to do is pull the noseband and everything to the outside of the cheek pieces so that I can guide the bit in. And we're going to, again, I'm guiding the bit in and just watching my fingers. It's my job to keep my fingers away from, sorry, Hope. I'm laughing because there's a cat on my cameraman, Hope.
Snaffles.
I'm going to have to rescue her.
Help. Help.
This is Snaffles. Snaffles is trying to help. Snaffles. So we pull the bridle on, and then I'm going to tuck in my cheek pieces. You don't want anything to interfere with your cheek pieces, so your noseband is going to come to the inside so that your cheek piece can move freely. Before I do up my bridle, again, I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. So throat latches first. Do up my throat latch. Put it through the runner and the keeper. This is a keeper, this is a runner. Keepers keep, runners run. See, it's a little round piece of leather that slides up and down. So this is a keeper and this is a runner. We tuck it in there. Then I'm going to double check, just stand in front real quick, make sure she's straight, because sometimes you'll get them a little crooked and they'll bother their ears. We're going to do up her noseband. I make this snug, not tight. This will help keep the bit stable in her mouth. She can't use her mouth as an evasion by opening her mouth and avoiding the bit contact. And then this is a flash. She doesn't necessarily need this, but some horses we do ride tend to, especially when they're learning to accept a bridle, they'll tend to want to swing their tongue around a lot. And again, that's an evasion. That's avoiding dealing with the fact the bit's in the mouth. So we want them to learn to get comfortable with it. So what this does is just help keep their tongue contained and keep their jaw from crossing and whatever. So we're going to go ahead and just put that on there. And that goes in front of the bit. Again, I'm not doing anything to affect her breathing. Her nostrils have plenty of room to move. The actual nostril, you can feel the bone is here, and then all of a sudden there's a softness here, and that's where her nostril is. So we don't want anything that's going to be down in this lower area that could affect her breathing. Do
you want to show how tight the flash is?
Yeah, and so then right now my flash is a little bit on the loose side, but I would want to be able to put 2 fingers in. So, and the same with the noseband is put a couple fingers in, and that way we know that it's not too tight. If it's too loose, it becomes a decoration. And I always say the noseband is to keep the mouth shut, not to be a decoration. So we want to be careful that it's not too loose. I do find working young horses or horses that have training issues that having the noseband helps contain things a little bit, calms the movement of the bit around, calms it down so that you don't have quite so much movement, and then they tend to calm down because it's not so dramatic. So even though it may seem like you're being mean strapping them down, you're not really, you're just kind of calming things down.
Ow, 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 ow.
Hang on, another rescue. My cats are a little too friendly. All right, come on.
I think they know who their auntie is.
Yes. So one thing about bridling that I see happen, and then to undo the bridle, you're going to start at your bottom and work your way up. So we're going to do the flash, we're going to do the cavesson or noseband, and then we're going to do our throat latch. What I see a lot of times people doing is they bridle with the reins and everything. So they come up and they're bridling like this. And you can see, no matter where she goes, I'm chasing her. And see how she can get away from me? That's going to teach your horse how to get away from being bridled, and it's going to cause her to more likely bang her teeth. That was a yawn. Yes, horses yawn. And there's a good example of her teeth.
Oh, what a good little model.
She's a good model. Okay, so obviously she's really impressed with my talk today.
Yes.
So again, I try not to have the reins go over with the headstall. I like the reins over at first, so I have a hold of my horse. And then the other thing is try not to go like this, chasing them around. By putting your hand over the top of the head, you're going to limit their desire to go upward. Hopefully they're going to be less likely to put their head up. And I can follow her. If she were to move, I'm going to try and get her to move, I can follow her and go with her wherever she goes, and she's not going to be able to get away from me as I bridle her. Okay. We're going to try one more bridle because I want to show one more thing with our bridles. So, stay there with me. And normally I wouldn't leave a horse unconnected, but we've got people here, so she's not going anywhere.
Also, she's kind of perfect.
And she's kind of a perfect mare.
Yeah.
So this is a Kimberwick bit, and the main reason I'm showing this is because it has the chain on it, and I want to show people the difference between a Western curve and an English curve strap, curve action. So again, I'm going to put the reins over her head. Again, being careful of her ears. Put the halter around her neck. Put my right hand over her pole. I'm going to hold the crown piece. And now I'm going to clear out my noseband so it's out of the way. And then I'm going to guide the bit in, same as usual. Slide it in, pull it up, and fold her ears forward. And tuck in my noseband. And then I'm going to do up my throat latch. Again, same theory as before. Tight enough to not go over the jaw, big enough to put a fist in. I'm going to do up my noseband so that it is snug but not tight. Again, we can fit fingers in there comfortably. And now we're going to get to the curb chain. And so with the curb chain, you can see the chain is just hanging there. And I'm going to twist it like this. This is how they usually look, kind of twisted up. And I'm going to call this our magic chain, is if you twist these chains, they get flat. You can see how flat that is?
Ta-da!
So it will lay flat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook my slack onto this first, and then I'm going to set my chain to the length I want it. And again, that just keeps the slack from hanging down. Again, I want to be able to put a couple fingers in there. And the idea, again, is at 45-degree angle, that chain should tighten. So at 45 degree is when your brake is activated. You don't want it so tight when you first put it on that when you pull on it, that it's going to be too tight, because then you'll get a horse that throws her head. Now, this bit actually has two slots. This is what they call an Exeter Kimberwick. And this is designed that you can put your rein on the bottom, on the top, or in the middle. On the bottom, you're going to get more curb action. With curb action, you get pressure on the pole. You get more chain action, which is going to cause the horse to curl. And if you ride with it here, you're going to get what we call more snaffle action, where you're not going to get the pole pressure and you're not going to get the curb action. A lot of times we just leave it loose on here, so it's like halfway between. It's kind of a milder version. This is actually a lesson bridle that we use, not on her, on another horse. So now to take the bridle off, we really want to make sure we remember to take the curb chain off. So again, start at the bottom, work your way up, take your curb chain off. Undo your cavesson or noseband. Undo your throat latch. Pull your reins up. I'm going to unbuckle my halter and hold it so I'm ready. And I'm going to slide the bridle off. And again, I'm going to let her lower the bit out gently so you don't hear it banging on her teeth. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the halter back on. Now, one thing to think about when you're working with the horses is be careful about standing in front of a horse. I might stand in front to take a quick peek to make sure that the brow band's level and the nose band's level, but you don't want to be standing here trying to bridle. One, it's a difficult spot for horses to see you, and second of all, if they throw their head, they're going to bump you in the face. So again,
Not
lesson
fun.
I learned the hard way. I got a few bloody noses over the years. So you want to make sure you stand clear to the side of the horse. Now that I'm done unbridling her, I'll clip her back up. Now, if I have a horse tied to a tie rail, I will untie the rope and leave the rope over the tie rail, but it will be untied. I don't like putting a halter around a horse's neck with it secured somewhere. It won't be secured to the cross tie and it won't be secured to the tie rail. That way I have a hold of her, but I don't want to risk any damage to her neck by having her secured strictly by her neck. Okay? If anybody has any questions or comments regarding bridling, excuse me, please, put comments in the comments below or contact me. We will go more into detail on bits. We will go more into detail about different bridles and tack and tack safety in the future. But I wanted to cover something that was good for everybody to kind of think about over the holidays and cover the bridling. So before we go today, it is Thanksgiving, and I think it's good to remind ourselves to be thankful. And one thing I think as horse people, we forget how lucky we are that we get to work with these animals every day.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes when somebody new comes to me and they're just like in awe of the horses, like, oh wow, can I pet it? Can I, and we forget how lucky we are that we get to work with these horses every day. So I want you guys to think of that, of being thankful for the fact that we are in a time where we can enjoy these wonderful animals and, whatever has happened in our lives that have brought us to horses, we get to enjoy them. And I'm thankful that I have such wonderful horses like Lady Ziva here. And then I would also like to thank all the people that are my friends and my support system. This year's been a tough year, and I have the most amazing people in my life. Hope, my assistant, who's my wonderful camera person and cat tree today, she's been a tremendous help, and I have so many wonderful friends, and so I want to just say I thank you all, and I thank all my viewers and all the people who have supported me on this adventure and are patient through all our technical difficulties and as we're learning our way.
We will get better, I promise. We'll improve.
I promise we will keep working on it. This is only episode 8, but I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week for episode 9.
I have a quick question before we
sorry.
forget. So a lot of people like to tuck in their forelocks into the brow band. We don't. What is your reason for that?
I think it's a preference thing. Personally, I think that I like the horses' forelocks to be a little bit freer. I mean, if they're braided, of course, they're going to be up for showing.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that sometimes having them there, I worry that anything that's going to be pulling on them or causing them any kind of discomfort. I always think about, like, when you have that one bobby pin and it's pulling that one hair.
Yeah.
That's one reason why I'm always very careful about making sure their bridle is clear at the top. So that's why I tend to pull their forelocks free. If I have a horse, I do have some horses over the years, or I've had some horses over the years, that the hairs of their forelock will tickle their ears and they get fussy. So in that case, we will tuck their ear in or braid it under. But on the most part, I just would like the horses to be as comfortable as possible. It's just a preference. There's no ruling on that. Any other questions?
Nope, that is it.
Okay, that's a great question.
I know.
And again, remember, there's more than one way to do things with horses. I'm not trying to sit there and tell everybody this is how it has to be done. I'm just telling you ways I've learned to do it and the ways that are safe. If you have any suggestions or comments or whatever, again, please feel to let me know. We're more than happy to share ideas, and we'll move forward from here. And if there's any topics that you would like us to cover, please let us know. All right? All right, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Have a safe holiday.